not the kind of day I expected to have. After I got the carburetor working, yesterday I went to drive it to town. There was a small cruise in, and when I went to crank it here, it wasn't getting ignition. Well, that's happened once or twice before, and I could wiggle the wires on the back of the ignition and it'd be fine for a while. Keep in mind that the harness, most of the harness in that car and the switch and everything else like that's original, and occasionally things, you know, lose connection. That's just part of it. Well, it cranked. I went to town. It started raining after I was there about an hour, and I started the car back up and I was headed home. Well, the car attempted to get me killed twice, once going across the bypass and then once closer to here. It's gotten loose, but I'm not sure that's the only thing, the only problem. That switch is the original for that car, and it was full of corrosion once upon a time. And I kind of think that maybe the corrosion came back on the inside. So I want to take it back apart. I'll show you what that looks like, and then I'll clean it, and I might show you some of that. But you know, this isn't, you know, most people just replace switches. Most people don't try to fix anything. Okay, so the corrosion really didn't come back, but what seems to have happened is that switch is wore pretty bad, which is kind of expected. But I don't know if you can see it. I've done kind of wiped my finger across that. That's been arcing a little bit, and that is this one. That's not smooth. Got some war spots on it. It's been hot too. See the coloring? It is a possibility I may have to buy a new one. I'm not too excited about that. I don't like buying new parts because those new Chinese switches aren't as good as these were. So I got it all the way apart. There's really nothing wrong with that piece. Really, there's nothing wrong with this piece. But that's got quite a bit of wear, and that does. So I'm going to go up the hill in a second and see if I can find another one to get this off of and that off of, and we'll see if we can put it together. Oh, and it was a word of advice. Don't do what I did. If you turn the key, once you take the piece of wire and you put it through this hole here, if you turn that key too far because you don't have the switch together, it'll jump past that shoulder. It's supposed to come apart with a pin lining up with, come on, line up. It's supposed to come apart with a pin lining up on this flat. If it goes too far, it'll lock into this. And then you'll have to do what I did and become a locksmith and figure out that if you cut the head of the key off, you can take this part off, you can take this off, and you can kind of wedge a piece of wire down in there and turn it back and take it out. Luckily, I have a few keys because I had to cut that one. That wouldn't be a problem you would normally ever have. I didn't show you this fits in it. I showed you the switch a little bit. It's working now. But Had another problem too. Just happened to line up fucking perfectly. Focus. That was a brand new set of old stock GM points. It burned them up. It would also make you think that I left the key on, but I've never left the key on. So I'm gonna. It could be extra too. It could be a condenser, but I doubt it. Only thing that really changed between the way I had it previously at one point is the addition of that coil, and you're supposed to run a ballast resistor. I didn't. So believe the points happened to line up with the ignition switch burning itself up inside, and that may have also been related. Okay, we skipped a week of me not doing anything to it, and everything I did do today. It was a combination of things. I don't even know if I showed that it was still messing up. It was my fault. I think I threw that away. Anyway, there was a wire, a white wire. You can see where I just kind of cut my tape. It was naked on, it was stripped on the end, and it was touching the intake. And I don't know how long it'd been like that. It could have been like that all last year. But it connected. And the connection on the back of the ignition switch is weak enough that every time that it connected, it just lost connection. We jumped the wire. We put a jumper from the battery to the wire, and when we did, it melted. It started burning the white wire down that direction. So today I got up here and finally figured out that it was touching the intake, and I stripped out the melted wire, and now we're running about 2 foot less of that resistor wire than it's supposed to have, so it's not resisting correctly, I'm sure. I just went ahead and left in circuit the ballast resistor, and I guess that's good enough. I drove it around. It seems to be okay now. So you can see we've got a new windshield. Well, it's new to this car. It's kind of against the rules. You can't run new parts. Kind of gotta scrounge every square junkyard in East Tennessee, and eventually you might find something. I could go on and on about the difference. Well, there's a massive difference. Main thing is I can see out of it. Another thing is you don't have to have your windshield glued in all the way, but it sure does help.